Welcome to the Franchising 360 Show, the only show that takes you inside the world of franchising, with hosts Tim Parmeter and Danielle Wright.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Franchising 360 Show. I am Tim Parmeter, and with me as always is Danielle Wright.
That's me.
We are on this show always going to take a 360-degree view of the franchising industry. All different things about understanding if you should own one, how do you know which one, how to be successful once you are a franchise owner, and even how to become a franchisor. I know we just recently had a big 3-part series on that, and we're going to talk about today I think one of the most impactful parts of vetting a franchise called validation calls.
Yeah, that's a big word. It's a lot of syllables, lots of letters. What does it mean?
That is a great question, Danielle. And so I think if we back up, right, like people start looking at a franchise, the discovery process or that mutual vetting, right? Because sometimes people think, well, you're the franchisor and I might be the franchisee.
I get that a lot.
Right? Like, you're just selling me and I just get to pick and choose.
If I write you a check, you're just going to give it to me, right?
Like the mirror's fogged.
I walked into Walmart and I picked one off the shelf and here we go.
Correct, which is decidedly not true, but it is a couple month process. There might be a dozen more steps along the way, and validation calls are where we get to talk to owners of those brands.
Well, and I think I love that idea, but validation isn't just calls. So I think that's what we're going to talk about today, right? Like what forms of validation are validation.
Right, how it works, but in theory, you should be validating what you've heard up until that point from the franchise owner.
Or validating what you think, or validating what others have said,
good, bad, or
right?
indifferent,
like it doesn't always have to be like, hey, I have to validate this in a positive fashion. So there's a lot of things to talk about.
And so some of the things, different ways it can happen, when it can happen, things to think about from what's the franchisor side.
So we're going to do this contrarian thing today, huh?
A little. It's a stretch for us, I think.
Sometimes.
But let's be honest, the best part of this show is always
the franchise
dun.
Fun fact. And oddly enough, I've got a fact about this.
About what?
About validation. Yes. Okay.
Coincidence. It's almost like we planned for once.
No. This I can definitely say we did not plan. Okay, so franchise sales, like selling a franchise, they come from referrals and validation calls from existing owners. What is the percentage of sales that come from having those good validation conversations and referrals from existing owners?
So what percent of new franchise owners comes from referrals from existing franchise owners?
And validation.
Across 4,000 plus brands in the US. 10%.
No. I'm loving the no.
Right. It's your favorite part.
It's
when you get to tell me no.
And everybody loves it too. Like,
and we
say everybody. Everybody like loves the no.
There might be one person that like doesn't love
you.
It. Yes.
Yeah.
But nobody cares.
So get one more shot.
37%.
That's an odd number.
Yeah.
Okay. No. The number is 80%.
80% come from referrals?
Referrals and validation calls with existing owners.
Oh, that they're saying that the validation calls help them.
Yes.
Oh, I misunderstood the question. I would have said 80%.
Clearly. No, you wouldn't have, but still.
But again, how impactful those calls are to...
Right. To the same point that we're talking about today is not just the calls, but existing owners kind of, and I think we have a few episodes coming up with marketing and PR kind of people that are going to talk a lot about referral. And what does that mean? And that's not necessarily, there's a whole bunch of stuff from the marketing and PR perspective that I could roll into this. Yeah. But the reality is not just, hey, I found a brand and I'm talking to those owners. Talk to other owners. How many times we've got this whole thing now, it's franchises in the wild.
Right.
We're now going into locations and talking to owners. Like, I'm never going to own a Sourdough & Co. But I talked to the owner. Right. I visited the franchise. It's now intriguing and interesting to me. So validation's bigger than just a phone call.
Love it. And so that and a whole bunch more when we come back here on the Franchising 360 show. Hey everyone, we are back on the Franchising 360 show. Tim Parmeter with Danielle Wright, and we are talking about validation calls. And you kind of touched on a bigger piece before we went to break of not just even the brand that you were looking at, but just talking to franchise owners in general. But let's come back to the process. So somebody's looking at a franchise, right?
Yeah.
Some point. And every franchise is different, how they're going to take people through that journey. But at some point, you're going to get a chance to talk to existing owners.
Yes.
Right? And so...
or you should. Like, let's put it out here. Like, standard process is to talk to owners that are running the day-to-day of the business. If you're looking at a franchise and they're hesitant to allow you to do that...
Run.
I don't know that it's a run. It's a ask the question why.
Right.
Because maybe they don't have a lot of owners. Doesn't mean that the brand is bad. They just don't have a lot of people. It's new. It's starting. There's things to consider.
Short of there not being any owners yet, right?
Correct.
And that should be a part of the process. But there are the emerging brands that are, maybe they don't have that many owners, and then there's ones that have hundreds or thousands of owners. They may, from a franchisor standpoint, and you've primarily always been on that other side, there's a lot of different ways that can be structured, right? Talk about maybe kind of what that looks like.
So validation typically or historically has come at the end of the process. So you learn a lot about the business as a potential owner. Like, here's the business, this is how it should be run.
Right.
This is how you should market it. Like, it's setting up the ideal owner.
Right. So I'm the candidate. I'm talking to you. We talk however many times in your brand overview. This is our marketing. This is this, right? All of that.
It could be you're also talking to the ops people. You could be talking to the marketing people. It's the brand's opportunity to give you the perfect day in the life of an owner, the story of an owner, how the business was set up originally, right? But we're human. What is the one thing that we all do as humans? We change things.
Right.
So, and markets are different. We're in Dallas right now, but how a business runs in Dallas may be different than, Des Moines, Iowa. Right. So there are effects to the business. So you want to talk to people that maybe have a similar background to you because your brain thinks the same way. Maybe a similar market, whether it's a large market, small market, medium market, how long they've been in the franchise. Like, are you new? Like, what was the first 90 days looking like? Because even in your new job, if you took a new job, right? Like, what do you do for the first week? You literally just sit at the desk until you figure out what you're doing. So talk to other owners in that capacity. But that typically comes at the back of the process when you've learned everything. Now you've got to validate that the support that the franchise is giving you is actually happening in real life with real franchise owners.
Yeah. Some of the kind of myths, my favorite word, or misconceptions.
There you go.
That we'll hear from candidates, from Fran Coach people that we're helping vet the franchises is there's the cynical side. Right? Like, well, I'm talking to Danielle and she said all of this stuff, but she could be a dirty liar. Well, maybe. Right? Now, when we talk to owners, like, they are the most honest, like, kind of part of this process because they're going to tell you the truth, good, bad, and ugly.
And why it comes at the end is typically they've heard all good stuff or stuff that aligns with their purpose, their mission, their vision, their culture, what have you.
Because you shouldn't be trying to sell me the franchise. You should be selling the virtues and the benefits.
If anything, I look back at my franchise sales career and I was generally talking people out of it.
Right.
Like, here are the things that are going to make your tummy upset. And if they're going to make your tummy upset, this may not be the right opportunity for you. Now go and validate. Did people have those same emotions and feelings? Because it does become an emotional piece. A lot of people take it down the financial route. Yeah. Like, I want to validate how much money I'm going to make. I think we both debate from a consultant perspective and from a Zor perspective. Money is in your hands. You can determine how much money you're going to make. If Bob makes less or more, that works for Bob's life. That may not work for your life. You may have to work a little bit harder to do better than Bob. And maybe you don't, and that's okay too. The point of validation isn't always to validate that I can make money doing this. The clear picture is it wouldn't be a franchise if people weren't making money at it.
that you can make, and again, it's always go back to.
Can we validate that?
Right. The money follows the fit. So if you can't see yourself doing it all day, every day, you're not going to get there. But there's some of the misconceptions we hear, and you can kind of like dispel this. Is like, okay, well, you, the franchisor, you introduced me to a few owners. Oh, are those the only ones that are doing well? Does everybody else hate it?
So there are processes in place with brands that like provide for code words. So my recommendation isn't to anyone watching this, like, let me just go out and ask to speak to an owner of any business.
Right.
Because they're not going to always readily be available. There's passive. They may live in a different state, whatever have you. And a lot of franchises want to kind of control validation only from the perspective of, is like, if you hear negative, you're going to lay heavy on the negative, right? Like, you're going to live in this, well, this one person out of these 100 had this bad experience. If you're not reflective, you're going to take that one and make that be the whole thing, right? So franchisors gatekeep their owners because, let's just talk hypothetically, you have a brand that's a pizza brand and there are 1,200 locations in the U.S. I'm pretty sure they have no problem getting a franchise candidate to want to open their business.
Right.
I can't have every owner spending time with these people.
Right.
Like, there's a mutual vetting process.
They're running their business.
So the reality is if I have this bucket of people, I believe that these people are going to give you the good, the bad, and the indifferent. So you then have to decide, where do you fit into those buckets?
Yeah.
And validation isn't, we talk a lot about phone calls, and I think we'll talk about this in the next segment. It's just, it's not always picking up the phone and talking to an owner. Yeah. And it's not always about validating that specific concept. You have to validate a lot of working pieces, that 7 spinning plates, right? Like, what does it look like to be an owner in any business? Talk to any business owner, because those traits are still transferable.
Yeah, and I think the some of the mixture, right? And this is where, you know, we help people, and I know for the majority of the franchises are doing this too, that they're giving you a mixture of maybe even it's something new in your background, or here's somebody that's been around for 10 years. Great. They don't remember what it was like at the start. So here's somebody a little bit newer, or it's like, hey, we're going to looking at a pool maintenance franchise, and you gave me, 2 owners in Arizona and 1 in Florida. Great. Well, I live in Minnesota, right? It's snow. So how do we have that kind of geographic balance in some things? And you should be able to get a good enough, we always tell people 3 or 4 owners, you'll probably get everything answered at that point. But if not, we'll know what specific thing is missing to be able to really target. And I still
think you have to sit with the fact is that you're not going to get 100% of the information.
No.
You have to be okay that if 80% is what you've got, you're going to be the variable of the 20%.
Right.
Like, that's just what it is.
Yep. And then you talk about sometimes the information here is bad or is negative, and I want to come back to that, and I want to talk about some of the other things outside of like phone calls that we can do from a validation call standpoint. That on a little bit more on the Franchising 360 show when we return. Hey everyone, we are back on the Franchising 360 show. Danielle Wright with me, Tim Parmeter, talking about validation calls, where we are vetting the franchise. We're getting a chance to talk to owners. And you mentioned sometimes, like, for the owners, you're going to hear the good, the bad, all of the things. The bad, it's easy for people to kind of glom on, I'm looking at this franchise. Danielle's a franchise owner. She wasn't super happy. Therefore, that means I need to run the other direction. Sometimes the things you might be saying as an owner that are negative to you could be the same for me, but I might be hearing them going, well, geez, no wonder why Danielle's not happy. That's not a good fit, or she's not following the process. That totally aligns with me. So, like, weirdly on our side, I think sometimes hearing an owner say something negative about their experience can actually prove it is the right thing for you versus the other way around.
But I think we're different, right? Like, I appreciate the negatives. Like, what?
Because it's not all rainbows and unicorns.
But it's not always negative either. I think it's, again, this is the personality component. This is the culture fit. Like, that's some of the stuff I tell people to, like, lead with that, own that, because if it's the right culture fit, and I know culture is such a buzzword, but it really does pertain to success. Like, you can see an equal, if it doesn't match, just like think about growing up as kids. Like, if they weren't the right group of kids to hang out with, you didn't enjoy it.
Right.
So you went and found a group of kids that you enjoyed hanging out with. They were similar. We liked the same things. So it's the same thing applying to a business. You got to find the people and the groups of people that you like working with. And when you hear what they're saying, you don't make that indicative of you. You make that of, what are they going through in that moment?
Right.
And this is the piece that when I say outside of phone calls, sometimes we were just having this conversation in the studio. Sometimes a face-to-face is going to give you a better understanding. Go in and ask if you can shadow for a day. They will gladly take free labor, right? Like, and if you're going to buy the business, you kind of need to know how it goes anyways. So step your foot into that space. So you will then see that their negative may not be negative. It just may be a normal Tuesday.
Right.
And like,
or you got them at a bad time or anything like that.
Everybody has a life thing.
How important from a franchisor standpoint is the validation calls or the feedback from the owners that you're getting when they're talking? Because I think there are times I believe that the most protective person in the whole process are those owners, because they don't want somebody coming in and messing up their brand.
You would think, right? I think it's just the size of the system. So that's something to always look at. How big or how small is the system? When it's smaller, the owners are more territorial and not from a, hey, I'm protecting the brand. I want to protect my space. Yeah. I'm putting a lot of money. I'm investing. Like, I'm building a brand in what is not known anywhere else.
Right.
So they're protective in that category. When you grow and get to a bigger size, then they become a little bit, because now we've had people quit or fail or show up with bad attitudes and not really culture fits. So from a franchisor perspective, you asked a very funny question that solicited a response in my face. Franchisors are hesitant on validation because you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
They are soliciting that feedback from the franchise owner, like, hey, how did that validation call go? Right. To an extent. So I don't want anyone thinking that they're a franchisee and you get the decision on whether or not you, Tim Parmeter, get to join this system because, I didn't have a lovely validation call with Bob.
Right.
Well, okay, Bob may have been going through it. You, Tim Parmeter, may have been going through it. Whatever that looks like on that normal Tuesday, or you went in person and guess what? They had a lunch slam, and you didn't get out of it what you wanted to hear.
Right.
So we use it as if you had a really amazing validation conversation, great. I want to know that. That means they're a good culture fit and I should consider pushing them forward. I want to know if they just came in and, threw all of your Cheerios on the floor.
Right.
I need to know that because we can work through some things. I can ask some questions as the franchise just to really make, like, what was going on with you, Tim? Like, why did you show up at Bob's facility and throw his Cheerios everywhere? It's meant to create a dialogue and make sure that people are all working in the right space. So the franchisor doesn't always solicit feedback from its owners, because then you open Pandora's box. And at the end of the day, I think we both can agree, and anyone watching this in franchising will agree, there have been people that we think would be the best owners and are just going to kill it.
We don't know crap.
And we were so wrong. And then the ones were like, I don't know that they're going to survive a year, end up being top performers in a system for years and years and years. So no one can really tell. So I would tell franchise owners, when validation happens, unless they have just come and smacked you directly in your face, just remember everybody's a human first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's the other thing I want to touch on is that a lot of times there's the one-on-one conversations with this. Sometimes brands will set up kind of like scheduled things, right?
Yeah, we call them group validation.
Right, and so again, sometimes people are like, oh, geez, why are these people here? But it usually has to do more times than not like size of the brand, because they don't want their owners
burnt out by calls.
Right.
Or visits.
But still a lot of positive things that you can glean from that. Even sometimes maybe there's another candidate on there that asks something that really helps you learn something more too.
The root of franchising and why it is successful and why people participate in it still to this day, no matter what the economics occur, like how economics occur, whatever's going on in the world at large, is because you don't want to do it alone.
Yeah.
It's cliche that we say that like go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. It is a cliche.
Yeah.
But it is true. And so kind of doing some of those group validation calls, now I hear the way other people think and I hear how they're seeing it, and that brings new perspective that could drive me one way or another. On the franchisor side, we get a little concerned about group validation because we're now opening up the ability to hear other people's visions and thoughts, and that skews everything that we've talked
people
about.
Will show up differently sometimes in those.
I've had meet the team days where they have come and they were been brilliant through the process, talked to owners, everybody loved them, and you got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde at a meet the team.
I think the other thing, and you kind of hit on this, is be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. The connections in those conversations with owners, if you end up becoming a franchise, I mean, and you've heard this thousands of times, those owners are saying, hey, if you get started, reach out to me. They're starting to build those relationships.
Yes.
And I don't think we talk nearly enough in franchising about how impactful the support is from other owners in the systems.
Well, because they're the ones doing it every day.
Yeah.
At the ground level.
Nobody knows it better.
Boots on, all of those pieces. And you had said something that was important for me, is that at the end of the day, you all are doing the same thing. So do it together.
Right.
Like that's kind of why you, and validation, some franchises generally put it all at the back. What you need to be asking yourselves as viewers of this show, if I'm looking at a franchise, you need to know exactly when that time is going to occur. What steps do I need to get there? Because I generally lead in my sales process. My goal is to get you to talk to owners, because whatever I'm telling you is great.
Right.
In a picture perfect world, Cinderella is going to find her slipper. But you need to be able to talk to owners, and you need to know when that's going to occur and what check boxes you need to
everybody's going to do it differently. And then the last little thing is just from our standpoint with Fran coaches, we're going to help make sure you're asking the right questions also, because that is also key. So you're able to get really and truly what you need out of it. But I love that part of the process on both sides, because it starts to make it real and brings everything to life.
Yeah.
So
I mean, everybody enjoys it. It's the funnest part. That's why 80% of buyers become buyers after they've had validation.
There you go. If hopefully that helps, and if you have any interest in learning a little bit more about becoming a franchise owner and doing validation calls, we're at Fran Coach, and that is the Franchising 360 show for tonight. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks again for watching the Franchising 360 show, brought to you by Fran Coach. Danielle and I hope these episodes continue to educate you on the franchise industry. In between our episodes, if you would like to learn more about franchising and the ways in which Fran Coach can help, there are a few places you should check out. First, be sure to listen to the award-winning Franchising 101 podcast. You can find this on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Next, check out the Fran Coach YouTube channel, Fran Coach for You. You can catch past episodes of the Franchising 360 show, plus tons of other content. If you like to read, we encourage you to check out the book, Becoming a Franchise Owner. And finally, when you are ready to take that first personalized step and explore franchise industry further, please reach out to our amazing team at Fran Coach. There is never any fee for our service, so let us help you create your better tomorrow. Until next week, for Danielle Wright, I'm Tim Parmeter. Thanks for tuning in to the Franchising 360 show.